So now let's move on to our final session, focusing on China, zooming in on the topic of cosmetic safety assessments, an area of significant importance for the global cosmetics industry. So I'm pleased to welcome Wenny from our China office. Wenny is a certified toxicologist and an EU certified cosmetic safety assessor. With over 6 years experience, she specializes in cosmetic safety assessment, evaluation, as well as toxicological analysis and regulatory compliance across China, the EU and the US. So without further ado, welcome Wenny. Wenny, the floor is yours.
Hello everyone, and warm welcome to our webinars. Thank you for taking time to join us today. My name is Wenny, and I am a standing cosmetic safety assessor, certified toxicologist in China, and I have also passed the EU's cosmetic safety assessment examination. In my role here, I'm deeply involved in the day-to-day work of ensuring cosmetic safety and compliance for both China, the European Union, and United States, which gives me a unique comparative perspective. And I also contributed to building our company's ingredient database, foundational tool for our assessment work. So today, I'm here to discuss a topic of critical importance, cosmetic safety assessment. Pre-market safety assessment is a vital checkpoint that safeguards consumer health. So its importance is being recognized by more and more countries globally. Beyond the three major markets we will focus on today, the US, EU, and China, with a similar trends emerging elsewhere. For instance, the ASEAN region. ASEAN region now requires product safety assessments, and we anticipate that South Korea will also implement battery safety assessment in the near future. So in this increasingly complex global landscape, how can you prepare your cosmetic safety assessments efficiently for multiple markets? That's the key questions we will talk about today, and take the EU, US, and China as our core examples. We will structure our discussion into three parts. First, we will compare core difference in the safety assessment requirements across the EU and the US and China. Then we will take a deep dive into the specific of China's latest requirements and updates. Finally, we will discuss practical strategies for achieving compliance, whether you're attacking marketing markets or focusing especially on China. Because the requirements of various countries or regions for cosmetic safety assessment are closely related to the country's cosmetic regulation. So it's necessary for us to need to combine the cosmetic regulation to better understand the requirements for cosmetic safety assessment. And let's begin with the European Union, which has long been a benchmark for cosmetic regulations. The EU framework is built on safety first principle. These products must be proven safe before they can be placed on the market. So a pre-market safety evidence is required. It's the Cosmetic Safety Report, which is abbreviated as CPSR, and is the key to market access. The cornerstone of this is Regulation 1223 and 2009. A key requirement of this regulation is the appointment of a responsible person based in the EU. This entity acts as a compliance guardian, legally responsible for the product safety and for maintaining the product information file. The safety assessment itself must be conducted by a qualified safety assessor. The individual is required to have a university degree in a relevant scientific field, like toxicology or pharmacy, ensuring a high level of expertise. Their core duty is to provide science-based safety assessment for each product. Okay, the Output of this process is the Cosmetic Product Safety Report, CPSR. It's a mandatory part of the PIF. The CPSR is a detailed two-part document. So part A is about safety information. It gathers all the necessary data, including the product formulation, stability data, microbiological quality, and information on impurities and packaging material, and also calculation of the margin of safety for each ingredient. And part B is the safety assessment. This is final conclusion drawn by the safety assessor based on all the data in part A. It also includes the assessor's scientific reasoning and their credentials. This entire process is guided by size, primarily from the EU Scientific Committee on Consumer Safety. It's notes of guidance like the extensive document provided, such as the scientific Bible for assessors, detailing the methodology for every aspect of the evaluation. Now let's turn our attention to the United States. The U.S. landscape has undergone a shift with the introduction of the MOCRO. This act has moved the U.S. from a largely voluntary system to one of legal mandatory obligations. For cosmetic companies, they must now proactively substantiate the safety of their products. Several of MOCRO's provisions already in fact, that has factory registration, product listing, and requirement for safety substitution. And there are also new rules for adverse event reporting and contact information on labels. Other provisions are still pending, including the finalization of standard test method of asbestos, a list of fragrance allergens, and the development of GMPs. These provisions show that the U.S. system is still evolving, but the direction is clearly towards stricter oversight. So, what does safety certification look like in the U.S.? A responsible person must ensure and maintain records that can support the product safety. This is often documented in a toxicology risk assessment, TRA report. Unlike the EU's highly structured CPSR, MOCRO does not mandate a standard format for this report. Companies have the flexibility to use relevant existing safety data to support their product safety. And it should be noted that any animal testing is not required. This assessment is typically based on the toxicological profiles of the ingredients, along with the data from product tests like human patch test, stability test, and microbiological tests, as deemed necessary by the safety assessor. Industry guidelines such as those from the CTFA often serve as a reference for best practices. Finally, let's look at China, which employs a mode of systemic supervision. The regulatory framework is structured like a pyramid. At the top of the main load, the CPSR, supporting this is the core guidelines for safety assessment, TGCS, and below that are various supporting documents on data dosage and submission. China's approach is also risk-based, categorizing products for either registration or notification. The registry or notifier has full responsibility for product safety. A key distinction is the qualification for a safety assessor in China, who must have at least 5 years of professional experience in a relevant field, blending technical knowledge with practical expertise. Under this framework, China now requires a full-version safety assessment report, which formally rolled out as May 1st this year. Unlike the US, China has a relative fixed format of this report and clear evaluation standard and supporting evidence are provided in the relevant guidelines, which I will further share in the slides in the third part. The requirements for submitting assessment report depend on the product's risk level. For example, special cosmetics, children products, or those containing new ingredients must submit the full evaluation report during the notification or registration process. Other general cosmetics may only need to submit an evaluation conclusion, but must have the full report on file for inspection. Thus, regulations are quite detailed in specifying what needs or when need to submit it. This table provides a great summary of the core difference we have just discussed. For report format, the US requires the specific CPS Part A and Part B, and the US have no mandatory format, and China requires its full version report. For pre-market requirement, while all require safety evidence to be kept or record, China is unique in requiring the mandatory submission of either the report or conclusion before marketing. For assessor qualification, the requirements vary significantly from a university degree in the EU to no strict requirements in the US, and at least 5 years of professional evidence in China. For data flexibility, the EU is quite flexible and does not specify the data type, but weight of evidence approach is used for reviewing data from all existing sources. The US allows companies to determines evidence. China, as we'll see, has very defined pathways for using data and getting waivers. This comparison highlights that one-size-fits-all approach to safety assessment is not feasible. Each market has own unique demands. Now, I'd like to take some time to focus especially on China's cosmetic safety assessment. As I mentioned earlier, China's cosmetic regulations have undergone significant changes since the release of CPSR. And I'm sure many of you with products on the Chinese market have felt the impact of these updates. That's why I want to spend a bit more time detailing the current requirements, especially concerning the data source you can use. So, to truly understand the current requirements in China, it's helpful to understand the recent evolution from the previous simplified safety assessment to the full version report, and that's now mandatory. This slide provides quick comparison. Under the simplified version, companies had a certain set of evidence they could rely on. With the transition to the full version, some of these evidence types have been updated, while others have been replaced entirely. Let's look at two key examples. First, the use of domestic and foreign authoritative conclusions remains a valid type of evidence. However, main challenge for companies was knowing whether such data existed for their ingredients. To solve this, the China authority has introduced a very helpful tool, an official index list, which I will introduce on the next slide. And second, and this is a very critical change. The use of highest historical use concentration is issued by China authority is no longer acceptable under the full version requirements. So what replaced it? To fill this gap, the China authority has provided different particle data source ingredient usage information of marketing products. This is compilation of real-world usage data from China Authority and China market, and we will explore this detail in the next slide. And in addition, compare with the simplified version, additional stability testing and challenger testing and compatibility testing with packaging material are required. So here is that helpful tool I just mentioned. On April 30th last year, China's technical institution NIFDC released the finest index of cosmetic safety assessment data from authoritative organizations. This index is designed to help you identify data gaps. It includes over 3,600 ingredients that are already used in China in cosmetics, but not listed in China's safety technical standards. And it's a list that points towards existing safety assessment published by international organizations such as the EU's assessors or the EU's CR. However, it's very important to remember that this is a reference list only. It tells you that assessments likely exist, but it does not provide the data itself. You are still responsible for getting the original latest reports from these organizations to use as your evidence. Now let's talk about the data source that replaces the historical use concentration. This is the ingredient usage information of marketing products. This list was also released by NIFDC on April 30th last year and was recently updated on February 9th this year. This list contains usage data for over 3,600 ingredients. This value here is that this information comes directly from cosmetic products that have already been successfully registered or notified in China. The list provides data on the use level, application area, and application method for each ingredient. The usage of the data should be evaluated to determine the correct usage level in relation to the application method and application area. And a key point to note is that ingredients on this list are generally not found in the authoritative conclusions index we just saw, making this a distinct and complementary source of evidence. To further support the industry, in the NIFDC released another supplementary document on April 10th this year. This document provides specific usage information for a subset of about 1,000 ingredients selected from the larger international data index. It focuses on ingredients that either frequently used in China, have specific use restrictions, or make clear safety conclusions. This list and main marketing products list we saw on the previous slide are considered equally valid reference. They both objectively compile usage data from the Chinese market and serve the same purpose to help you build a solid safety assessment based on real-world evidence. Now that we have seen that what these ingredients usage list are, it's equally crucial to understand how to apply this data correctly, as China has very specific rules. The data is categorized by application method, primarily level or resolve, and by application area, such as the whole body, face, eyes, lips, and so on. The usage data do not cover all application methods and application area of each ingredient. A certain degree of flexibility is given. If there is no usage data for your product, you can base your data on application area and application methods that have a larger exposure than your product. But you cannot simply mix and match. This slide shows several key exceptions and consideration. For an eye product, you cannot reference usage level from ingredients used on the hands, face, or hair. You must use levels from other relevant areas, like the face, and supplement this with a specific eye irritation assessment. Similarly, for a lip product, you cannot use data from hair or hand and face products. If your product is intended for multiple areas, like the face and neck, you must select usage level from the area considered to have high exposure or sensitivity. Following the order listed on this slide. Adhering to these rules is essential for ensuring your safety assessment report is compliant. Now that we have discussed how to use existing data, what do you do when there are still gaps? Beyond using direct data, China's guidelines also allow for the use of scientifically recognized alternative method. Let's talk about two of the most ones, the TTC method and the Red Cross. First up is the threshold of toxicological concern, TTC method. This is a valuable risk assessment principle that allows you to evaluate the safety of the trace substance that may lack complete toxicological data. The core idea that for any chemical, there is a human exposure level below which there is very low probability of and risk to human health. However, as you can see on this slide, the application of TTC in China comes with very clear limitation. The guideline lists the substance that cannot use this method. And it should be noted that China specially excludes functional ingredients, which means that TTC method is not acceptable for assessment functional ingredients such as whitening sunscreen. A common and practical questions we often receive is, can we apply the TTC method to complex mixture like botanical extracts? The answer is yes, but you cannot simply treat the entire extracts as a single substance. Instead, you must follow structured multiple-step process. First, you need a comprehensive analysis. A key condition here is that the identified ingredients in the mixture must account for at least 15% of the total content, not including things like solvent or preservative. Next, you need to group and assess the constituents. For the known ingredients, assess them using appropriate methods. For the unknown ingredients, you can then apply the TTC principle. Finally, you need to come to the conclusion. You combine the results of all these individual tests to make a final scientific judgment on the overall safety of the potential ingredient. In addition to the TTC method, another powerful alternative method for finding toxicological data gaps is Red Cross. This method allows you to use toxicological data from a well-studied source chemical to predict the toxicity of a target chemical, then leaks data based on structural similarity. So what does China consider a similar structure? The guidelines are quite specific. It's not about looking similar. It can mean having the same functional groups, being part of the same chemical category or sharing the same metabolic pathways. Just like with TTC, there are important limitations for read across. The slide highlights that read across method cannot be applied to functional ingredients. So no using it for your sunscreens, whitening agents, or preservatives. None can it be used for assessing risk substance. And the evaluation procedure consists 3 steps as shown in the slide. If you use it correctly, it can be resource efficient when to complete your safety assessment. So we have captured all using existing data and powerful alternative methods like TTC and read across. But what happens if you still have data gaps for certain toxicological endpoints for an ingredient? You may first thought you need to commission a new animal testing, but that's not necessarily the case. Before considering new testing, it's crucial to check if you can justify a waiver. And this slide lists the several key toxicological endpoints where testing can be waived under specific situations. For example, long-term toxicity data can be exempt for non-functional ingredients. Systemic toxicity can be exempt for high molecular weight polymers and edible ingredients. Eye ingredient irritation and inhalation toxicity can be exempt if there is no eye or inhalation exposure. Phototoxicity can be exempt if there is no low UV absorption. However, it should be noted that if an ingredient does not qualify for an examination and no other data is available through the methods we have discussed, then toxicological testing for that specific endpoint may become necessary to ensure safety. Now let's consider a very specific situation. What happens if, after exhausting every single option, searching for existing data, applying alternative methods, and checking for waivers, you still cannot comply with the safety assessment? China's regulations provide one final conditional pathway: conducting toxicologist test or human test on the finished products. Is intended as a practical solution for very specific situation and comes with strict conditions. As the slide indicates, you can only consider this pathway if the ingredients with missing data make up no more than 10% of the total formula. These ingredients must be non-functional. For example, they cannot be functional. For example, they cannot be the sunscreen or whitening agent, and they must be present at a low content. The term low content requires carefully professional judgment. This final choice reflects the practical nature of the regulation, offering a narrow pathway forward, but feasible pathway forward for specific low-risk assessment challenges. So, with this complex and different requirements in mind, how can a multiple national company create an efficient and compliant strategy? Let's move to our final section. Our number one recommendation is to build a global ingredient database. The principle of building a database is universal. It's universal, organizing basic information like name, structure, and definition, and also function of ingredients. Monitor ingredient compliance and usage restriction in key markets. Gather both internal and external safety assessment and toxicological data for the ingredients. But how you build and manage it can vary. The best strategy often depends on the scale of your business. Let's consider two common situations. If you are a large enterprise with a high volume of products that use concentrated set of core ingredients, it can be a advantage to build your own internal database. This allows you to manage your formulations and basic safety data efficiently. But if you are a small or medium-sized company with manageable number of products, building a massive internal messenger might not be the most efficient approach. In this case, your best strategy is likely to use reliable evaluation tools for your ingredient review. For instance, tools like our Cosmelist or cosmetic ingredient search tool, it can help you quickly check the compliance standards of your ingredients. And for the safety assessment reports, you can rely on the expertise of a professional third-party service provider. Of course, recognizing these different needs, at Reach24H, we build our own comprehensive solution, a multi-national compliance and safety information database. On the next slide, I will share a bit about our platform. At Reach24H, we have developed our global toxicology intelligence platform. It's a dynamic system that integrating basic information of the existing ingredients, conclusions from authoritative conclusions like SCCS, NCR, and toxicological endpoint data, including further related evidence. It allows our team to quickly review formulations, identify data gaps, and generate assessment reports for different countries or regions, which improves both efficiency and precision. In addition, if you're focusing on the challenging Chinese market, we recommend a clear three-step strategy. Step 1: compare your existing data against the specific requirements of China's guideline or data list to identify what you have and what you are missing. Step 2: proactively use China's official data sources, TTC, rigors, and other approved methods to build an evidence and to fill those gaps. Step 3: compliance is not a one-time task. You must continuously monitor regulatory updates and establish a post-market surveillance system to supplement your assessments over time. This final step of dynamic maintenance is critical. So you must master the core regulatory documents, the TGSA, the guidelines for data use, and TTC guidelines, and so on. And it's essential to pay close attention to all official notice from China authorities to stay synchronized with their expectations. Okay, before we conclude, I'd like to briefly mention how Reach24H can support your efforts. Our service in China is comprehensive, especially for cosmetics in mainland China. We offer a full suite of service, including acting as your responsible person, managing product registration or notification, conducting formula and label reviews, and of course, preparing the full version safety assessment. We also handle the notification for toothpaste products and the complex registration process for new cosmetic ingredients. We also provide this service for Taiwan region, including acting as the responsible person and preparing the necessary product information file to ensure your products are compliant there as well. Beyond cosmetics, our expertise extends to food, chemical, pesticide, pharmaceutical, food packaging, making us a one-stop solution for regulatory compliance in different countries or regions. So that's everything from me. I hope you find this session insightful. Thank you.